By the end of this video, I want my rear diff installed, my rear control arms and suspension installed, the hubs installed, all the wheels in the car and lowered onto the ground. I also want a house in the country, a 6-car garage and $1 million in the bank. Hello YouTubes. Right, the chances of getting all that done in one video are slim to don't be ridiculous, but we have to start somewhere. So let me walk you through the plan for today. I want to get the rear diff in roughly the right position because I need to know how much distance I've got between that drive shaft connection to the end of the drive shaft and then the hubs, so that I know how wide the wheels are going to be. And then when I know how wide the wheels and the hubs are going to be, I can sort out the front. Yes, I'm doing it all backwards. So I'm going to just lift this and hook it over this bar for now. Lift the other side and hook it over that bar there when I re-weld it to where it's supposed to be. Just to give me a rough idea of the height of the diff. And obviously I'll centre that, and then I'll know how much distance I've got when I put my drive shafts on to the hubs. Then we can start working on the hub situation. Which is a completely harebrained scheme that Kevin had that I am now going to adapt, and hopefully it'll work, but we'll get to that after this is in place. So let me get that bar welded up and get the diff up roughly to the right height and centre it. I should probably remove these chairs so that I don't get them covered in sparks and weld, right? That's a sensible thing to do. Quick disconnect seats, very cool. Okay, on with the show. So the diff is getting caught in the big yellow cradle, so I need to lift the whole frame up and bring it this way. Back in a minute. I think that's going to be a bit too high. Let's proceed. I'll put the control arms on and we'll see how much distance we've got to the hubs. Yeah, pretty sure the diff is a bit high. I'm not quite sure why I was so obsessed with getting it over those bars. Let me show you. I guess this is why you've got to try things in place, mock up a lot. Because it obviously looks different to how it is when you actually install something. But if you check this side, if I'm wanting these control arms parallel to the drive shaft at rest, at normal right height, try and do this with a knee and an arm, you can see that that is unnecessarily close. If I actually just put that underneath that bar and make a plate here for that to bolt upwards into, then it'll probably be fine. The other issue I would have if I had the diff that high, the front of the diff needs to actually slope up because the engine is sloping slightly down, and it's obviously doing the opposite. And if I was to rotate that where it is, it's just going to hit that bar. So I shall take all that off, put it underneath, ratchet strap it to the underside of those bars for now, and try again. Back in a minute. That makes way more sense. Let me show you. So we are centered there, pretty much centered there. I had to use clamps instead of ratchet straps because I really wanted it nice and close. Now, I was thinking that I had to center this between that bar and that bar, but no. The mounts sit back from the actual drive shafts. So that's where the drive shaft's centered on the control arms. So let's see what they look like from down there. So that would be level-ish, drive shaft level-ish there, lower control arm. So now it looks a bit close to the lower control arm. Maybe you've got a better view than me, but that looks about everything parallel. Still, I think I would rather it was there than too high. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Right, so the next thing we have to figure out is how we're going to attach the hubs to these. And bring on the harebrained scheme. I'll just attach this hub to the drive shaft, then I'll walk you through the plan. Hub is now bolted to the drive shaft, and all my control arms look to be parallel. That one to that one. And the drive shaft is fairly parallel also. So here's the tricky bit. I need to figure out how I'm going to attach this and that to this monstrosity. Obviously I can't bolt it through that because it's kind of diagonal, and this one's away around at the side, and that one's kind of squint as well. So I need to make a plate, which basically means I'm going to be cutting all these off, keep as much of this aluminum hub as possible, drill some holes, make a steel plate that can bolt onto all this hub assembly, and then weld on brackets to receive that. Maybe not that, I might change that because that looks a bit wide. And also, these metal tabs aren't quite as thick as I would like, so I will be redesigning that. The bottom one, they're heavy duty, but again, they're a bit wide. They don't need to be that wide, even if I was to chop that and move that over. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with the plate that I'm going to make. I've got a couple of sections of that 1/4 inch steel. So what I'll do is I'll start with a hole in the middle, try and get it to fit as a big square, and then I can kind of cut it to shape and weld on the brackets. It doesn't, I mean, it could go on a big square plate if I want, but that would look a bit goofy. So that is the next challenge. However, before I start that, I really want to get a wheel on there and make sure I've got enough space in the way, and also see what the ride height is roughly going to be like. If the wheel goes on like that and it doesn't touch the ground, that's okay. If it touches the ground at that height, that means we're going to have that much clearance off the ground. That's way too much. So I do really want to get this wheel on and make sure there's about that much space between the wheel and the ground, and then we'll be in the rough sort of area. I can't really drop the whole frame down onto the floor yet because I don't have any springs at all. It would just all collapse. So let me grab a wheel, slap it on, see how it looks. that'll do. Everything is pretty much centred where I would like it. Diff is where I want it. Control arms seem to be parallel with the drive shaft. So that would be at normal ride height. So I've got this gap here. It's going to come in a little bit as it goes up and down, but I can deal with that. That's why I put those 1.5 inch spacers on, otherwise the wheel would be rubbing. Don't even get me started on the wheel choice, okay? That's another subject. Now, ride height then. I have got 3 chunks of wood. So let's measure that wood. I know it's meant to be like 2x4, but you know it's not actually 2 inches deep. It's like 1.5 or something. So we will measure the distance of the wood. It's about 4.5 inches, and then measure this. Call it 11 inches. Minus 4.5 is 6.5. Is that right? Yeah. So the ride height is going to be 6.5 inches off the ground. We'll go over here where I've got more space. Six and a half inches looks perfect. Let's compare it to a normal car, shall we? BMW 3 Series, that's fairly normal. Goodness, I thought a big bug had landed on me. What a waste. So, it's BMW spec. It's going to be the same as the BMW, which is fine. I don't want to be scraping over stuff. And once I fit the shocks and all that, they're adjustable. I can always raise it up a little bit, or raise the wheel up to lower the car, kind of deal. So far, we're on course. Before I get started on the hub plate adapter thingies, I'm going to just weld up some sort of bracketry for the diff to mount to. This will be kind of temporary. Let's call it proof of concept. So let me whip something together and get the diff bolted to the frame. Diff is now installed. Now, before you get your panties in a twist, this is temporary. This is proof of concept, because I'm very limited with the distance between the centre of the diff to the hub. You can't stretch them in and out with an independent rear suspension and drive shaft situation. Okay, so as I say, this is really all about spacing, positioning. I did remember to angle the diff up. It is up quite a lot, but it's going to swing back down if I take that wooden thing out. I'm not going to do that just now. Remember, that's sloping up because the drive shaft, because the gearbox is sloping down. Now, I've not put the rear transmission mount on there yet, and I've not put this mount yet because I'll be using a little angle finder to make sure that that matches that. You know, that slopes up that way, and this slopes down this way, and the angle has to be the same, or opposite, or you know what I mean. So what else have I worked out today? Oh yes, I measured the distance between the hub nuts with spacers on, there to there. That worked out to be about 64, 65 inches. I did the same at the front, again with the spacers on. I need these spacers because it converts the bolt pattern. Distance between that one and that one is 66 inches. So the front would be a little bit wider than the back. It's not the end of the world, but I would rather the back was wider than the front. So I will either have to get even bigger wheel spacers. That's currently 1.5 inch wheel spacers, and I would need at least 2 inch wheel spacers. That's a bit sketchy. The alternative is to just completely change my wheels, which is really frustrating because I bought a set of nice 16-inch wheels that I thought were great, and then Ted gave me a set of almost brand new 16-inch wheels with brand new tyres. So to go out and buy more wheels, more tyres, this is supposed to be a low-cost project, not an extremely high-cost project. Leave a comment. What would you do to make the rear end wider? Do you think spaces are okay, or do you think that's a complete no-no? Wheels is a sensible option, but I kind of like those wheels, and you know, money. Okay folks, I'm going to leave the diff where it is for now. Next video I want to get stuck into these hub adapter plates. Regardless of how we're going to connect those plates to the control arms, I need to get these plates made as flat as possible and as secure as possible to the hubs. Then we can decide if I'm going to use these control arm linkages, which are non-adjustable, or if I'm going to construct some elaborate rose joint adjustability thing. We'll see. It's more money. Those things are quite expensive. It's like $60 per bar. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 6 is $300, you know. But I would like the adjustability. Right, as I said, leave a comment about the rear width spacers, or just change the wheels. Please say spacers. Take care. See you in the next one. Bye bye.